If you're feeling lost, listen to this message. Allah has not forgotten you if you are feeling lost right now. Confused, tired, overwhelmed, or unsure about your direction, pause for a moment and listen carefully. Feeling lost does not mean you are broken. It does not mean your faith is weak. And it certainly does not mean that Allah has abandoned you. In fact, many of the most sincere servants of Allah experienced moments of deep confusion before clarity was granted to them. Feeling lost is often the beginning of being guided. There are moments in life when plans collapse, doors close, and the future feels unclear. You may be doing everything right, yet nothing seems to work. This is when Shaitan whispers that you are failing, that you are behind, that Allah is displeased with you. But this is a lie. Allah tells us in the Quran that He guides whom He wills, when He wills, and how He wills. Delay is not denial. Confusion is not rejection. Sometimes Allah removes clarity so that you are forced to turn to Him more sincerely than ever before. When you feel lost, it is often because Allah is redirecting you. The path you thought you needed may not be the path that will bring you closer to Him. So He pauses you. He slows you down. He makes you uncomfortable not to punish you, but to protect you from a destination that would harm your heart or your faith. Allah sees what you cannot see. He knows the future you are praying for, and He knows the future you are being saved from. This is why turning back to Allah in moments of confusion is critical. Salah is not only for people who feel strong, it is especially for those who feel weak. Dua is not only for people who know what they want, it is for those who don't even know what to ask for anymore. When words fail, Allah still understands your heart. Even a silent tear raised to the sky is a form of dua. Remember this, being lost does not mean you are far from Allah. Sometimes it means Allah is closer to you than ever before, shaping you, preparing you, and guiding you in ways you do not yet understand. Hold on, keep praying, keep trusting. Guidance always comes often right after patience feels impossible. Feeling lost is not a sign of failure. Feeling lost is one of the most misunderstood experiences in life, especially from a spiritual perspective. Many people immediately assume that feeling confused, uncertain, or directionless means they have failed, that they are weak in faith, or that Allah is displeased with them. This assumption is not only incorrect, but it is also deeply harmful to the heart. In reality, feeling lost is often a sign that something within you is awakening. It is the moment when your soul realizes that comfort, routine, or worldly plans are no longer enough. If feeling lost were a sign of failure, then some of the greatest servants of Allah would be considered failures, yet their moments of confusion were the very moments that shaped their strength and closeness to Allah. Even the prophets faced periods of hardship, uncertainty, and emotional struggle, not because they were distant from Allah, but because Allah was preparing them for something greater. When you feel lost, it usually means you are standing at a turning point. Old answers no longer satisfy you, and the future feels unclear. This discomfort is not punishment, it is growth. Just as physical growth can be painful, spiritual growth often comes with inattention and questioning. Allah uses these moments to detach your heart from false sources of security, status, people, plans, or expectations, and reconnect it to the only source that never fails. If everything in life always made sense, you would rely on your own understanding. But when things stop making sense, you are reminded of your need for Allah's guidance. But feeling lost also humbles the heart. It strips away arrogance and self-reliance and replaces them with sincerity. You stop pretending that you have everything under control, and that is precisely when your dua becomes real. You no longer speak to Allah with rehearsed words, you speak with honesty. And Allah loves honesty. He loves when His servant comes to Him broken, trusting, confused but hopeful. The Quran repeatedly reminds us that Allah is close to the broken-hearted, not distant from them. Most importantly, feeling lost does not mean you are far from Allah. Sometimes it means you are closer than ever before. Allah may be guiding you in ways you cannot yet see, teaching you patience, reshaping your priorities, and strengthening your reliance on Him alone. What feels like failure is often a divine pause, an opportunity to realign your heart with your true purpose. So do not label yourself as unsuccessful just because you feel uncertain. Guidance does not always arrive with clarity first. Sometimes it arrives through confusion that eventually leads you back to Allah with a stronger, more sincere heart. Allah delays to protect and redirect you. One of the hardest truths to accept in moments of confusion is that Allah's delays are not signs of neglect, but signs of mercy. When you are feeling lost, it often feels like life has come to a complete standstill. Doors you were certain would open remain shut. Efforts you poured your heart into seem to produce no results. Time passes, yet clarity does not arrive. In these moments, the heart begins to question, why is nothing moving forward? But from a divine perspective, Allah is never late, and He never withholds without wisdom. What appears to you as delay is often Allah actively protecting you from harm you cannot yet see and redirecting you towards something far better for your faith and your future. Allah's knowledge is complete, while ours is limited to what is directly in front of us. You may be praying intensely for a specific outcome, convinced that it is the solution to your problems, not realizing that this very outcome could damage your iman, your character, or your long-term well-being. So Allah intervenes not always by saying a no, but by saying a not now or not this way. He blocks certain paths not to frustrate you, but to preserve you. If Allah were to give you everything you asked for exactly when you asked for it, you might reach a destination that looks successful on the outside, but leaves your heart empty, distant, or spiritually weak. Being delayed by Allah is often a form of redirection. Sometimes you are walking confidently toward a path that feels right because it aligns with your desires, your plans, or societal expectations. But Allah sees where that path leads, and He knows it is not where your soul will thrive. So He slows you down. He creates obstacles. He makes the journey uncomfortable enough that you are forced to stop and reassess. This pause is not a punishment. It is a correction guided by divine wisdom. Many people only realize years later that the opportunities they once cried over were actually disasters in disguise. Delay also teaches patience and trust, two qualities that cannot be developed in comfort. When everything comes easily, the heart becomes attached to results rather than to Allah. But when things are delayed, you learn to rely on Him rather than on timelines, people, or circumstances. Your dua becomes deeper. Your surrender becomes more genuine. You stop demanding answers and start trusting the one who holds them. In this way, delay becomes a spiritual training ground. So if you are feeling lost because nothing is moving the way you expected, remind yourself of this truth. Allah is not ignoring you. He is guiding you carefully step by step, even when the steps feel invisible. Every delay carries wisdom, every closed door carries protection, and every redirection carries the promise that Allah is leading you toward what is best, even if your heart has not yet understood it. Salah and dua are anchors in confusion. When a person feels lost, uncertain, or overwhelmed, the greatest danger is not the confusion itself, but the feeling of being alone within it. Confusion becomes heavy when the heart believes it must carry every burden by itself. This is precisely why salah and dua are such powerful anchors during difficult moments. They reconnect the believer to Allah at times when clarity feels distant and strength feels limited. Salah pulls the heart out of isolation and places it directly before the one who controls all outcomes. Dua allows the heart to unload its fears, doubts, and unanswered questions without shame. Together, they transform confusion from a source of despair into a space for spiritual closeness. Salah provides stability because it introduces structure when life feels unstructured. Confusion often comes with a loss of rhythm, sleep patterns change, focus weakens, and emotions fluctuate. The 5 daily prayers restore balance by repeatedly bringing the believer back to remembrance. Each prayer acts as a checkpoint in the day, reminding the heart that no matter how unstable circumstances become, Allah remains constant. When you stand in prayer, you momentarily step away from the chaos of thoughts and worries. That separation itself is healing. Even if the confusion remains afterward, it no longer feels uncontrollable, because the heart has been grounded in the presence of Allah. The movements of salah mirror the inner reality of a confused soul. Standing before Allah is an admission that guidance must come from Him. Bowing reflects humility, the recognition that human understanding is limited and that not everything can be solved through effort alone. Sujood is the ultimate release of control. In that position, The believer places their greatest weight, the head on the ground, symbolizing complete surrender. It is often in sujood that the heart finds its deepest peace, because surrender removes the pressure to have immediate answers. Peace does not always come from knowing what will happen next. It comes from trusting who is in control. Dua complements salah by giving space for emotional honesty. When a person feels lost, they may struggle to articulate their needs, yet Allah does not require perfect words. Dua is accepted in broken sentences, silent tears, and even in moments of pure exhaustion. Allah understands what the heart cannot explain. Making dua during confusion is an act of faith, because it means you still believe that Allah listens, even when you feel uncertain. This belief keeps the heart alive and hopeful. Every sincere dua, whether answered immediately or delayed, strengthens the bond between the servant and the Creator. Regular engagement in salah and dua also guards against hopelessness. Prolonged confusion can invite negative thoughts, self-blame, despair, and the fear that things will never improve. Shaitan exploits these moments, attempting to convince the believer that Allah is distant or unresponsive. Salah disrupts these whispers by reaffirming connection. Each prayer is a reminder that Allah has not abandoned you, even if the path is unclear. This consistent return to Allah builds inner strength. Ultimately, salah and dua do not always remove confusion immediately, but they ensure that confusion does not define you. They anchor you until guidance unfolds. Allah often prepares the heart before revealing the path, and that preparation happens through worship. When you continue to pray and make dua despite uncertainty, you are choosing trust over fear. And it is through that trust that Allah gradually replaces confusion with clarity, anxiety with peace, and uncertainty with direction.